Sure. Here is section 1 of your infidelity short story script, written with precision, no fluff, and staying true to the emotional core of the narrative. Word count is approximately 760 words, and it avoids repetition or filler. We were married for 5 years. From the outside, it probably looked fine. We laughed at dinner, took weekend drives, and held hands during movies. Nothing dramatic, no fights worth remembering. But there was a distance that crept in slowly, quiet, like mold behind a wall. You don't notice it until it's already rotted through. Emily started coming home later. At first, it was the usual, meetings running long, traffic, networking events. I believed her. She'd always been honest, or at least I thought so. But I noticed small things. Her phone always face down. More time spent getting ready. Her scent changed. There was a cologne in the air that didn't belong to me. I didn't confront her. I just watched point one night. She said she had a late dinner with a client. I waited until she left, then sat in silence. I wasn't angry, I was empty. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for, but I opened her laptop. No password change. Strange. She always guarded her devices like her life depended on it. I went to her email, then her messages. It was all there. A thread of messages with a man named Mark. Coworker. I'd met him once. Firm handshake, too many teeth when he smiled. Their messages weren't vague. They were direct, shameless. Hotel bookings. Inside jokes. A photo of her lying in a hotel bed in a dress I'd never seen her wear. She called him Mem. He called her my secret. I didn't scroll far. I didn't need to. I sat there for a while. The hum of the fridge was the only sound in the house. I didn't cry. I didn't break anything. I didn't even feel surprised. Just numb. I walked to our bedroom, packed a single suitcase, took only the essentials, laptop, passport, 2 shirts, 1 pair of shoes. Left my ring on the nightstand. I wrote her a note. I know. I hope you find what you're looking for. And I walked out. No one saw me. It was still dark. I drove to a hotel on the other side of the city. Checked in under my middle name. Turned off my phone. For the first time in 5 years, I heard the silence. Not the kind that fills space when someone's away. The kind that says something's over. The messages started coming in the next morning. Emily, confused, panicked, trying to figure out where I was. Her voice in the voicemails shifted from worried to angry to crying in loops. I listened to none of it. I blocked her number. Changed my email. It wasn't revenge. I just didn't want to hear her voice. I imagined her coming home to an empty house. Seeing the note. Maybe she thought I'd yell. Maybe she expected a confrontation, some messy argument with screaming and accusations. She didn't get that. She got silence. And silence is harder to argue with. People think strength means fighting. Sometimes, it means leaving without a sound. I wasn't thinking about what came next. I didn't have a plan. I wasn't trying to punish her, and I didn't need answers. I already had them. She'd made a choice, and so had I. Staying would have turned me into someone bitter, paranoid. Someone who begged for explanations that wouldn't change anything. What broke me wasn't the affair. It was the effort she put into hiding it. The deliberate deception. The rehearsed stories. The double life she managed to keep so perfectly intact, right under my nose. That kind of betrayal doesn't just cut, it rearranges you. I didn't tell anyone at first. Not even my sister, Sarah. I wasn't ready to hear anyone else's voice inside my head. I wanted to sit with the truth until it stopped echoing. That first week, I barely ate. Sleep came in pieces. But I didn't reach out. Not to her. Not to anyone. I kept playing her last voicemail in my head, even though I never heard it. I imagined it sounded like guilt. Or maybe desperation. But in the end, it didn't matter. She didn't lose me the night I left. She lost me long before that, somewhere between her first excuse and her first lie. I left quietly. Not because I was weak. But because I finally understood my worth. And if she couldn't see it, I wasn't going to explain it, not anymore. Let me know when you're ready for section 2. Of course. Here is section 2 of your script, written with clear emotional progression, no repetition, and tight narrative pacing. Word count is approximately 760 words, keeping the focus on Daniel's healing and growth. The first morning after I left, I woke up in a place that didn't smell like her shampoo. That alone felt like a win. The sheets were stiff, the walls bare, and my bag sat untouched in the corner. But it was mine, this space, this silence, this beginning. I didn't tell anyone where I was. I rented a small studio on the edge of a quiet town 3 hours from everything familiar. No photos, no framed memories. I bought a cheap desk, a mattress, and a kettle. I worked remotely, took short freelance contracts, and ignored the digital noise of my old life. The first few weeks were harder than I expected. Not because I missed her, but because I missed the version of myself I was with her. There's a strange kind of mourning that comes with losing someone who's still alive. I wasn't grieving her. I was grieving the illusion. I tried not to think about Mark. He wasn't the enemy. He was just the symptom of a deeper issue, one I stopped pretending I didn't see. Still, there were moments when I wondered what he had that I didn't. It's human to wonder, even when the answers don't matter. My appetite came and went. Nights were the worst. Silence stretches differently when there's no one to say goodnight to. I wrote down thoughts in a notebook I never planned to reread. Some pages were angry, others cold. But most of them were just questions without question marks. Why didn't I ask her sooner? Why didn't she just leave if she wanted something else? Why did I still care enough to hurt? I kept my routine simple. Wake. Work. Walk. Cook. Sleep. Repeat. No alcohol. No distractions. Just time. Time was cruel and kind in equal measure. I stopped checking the date. I stopped expecting her to try harder to reach me. My sister, Sarah, found out where I was 2 months later. She showed up with groceries and a familiar look that only siblings can give, the kind that says, "You don't have to explain." We didn't talk about Emily much. Sarah never liked her. Not in a vindictive way. She just saw things I refused to. "You don't owe her pain," Sarah said once. "But you do owe yourself peace." That stuck with me. I hadn't realized how much of my energy had been spent managing someone else's emotions. Making sure Emily was okay, even when I wasn't. Now, there was no one to manage but myself. I never stalked Emily online. I didn't want to know what happened to her or to them. Whether they lasted, whether he left, whether she regretted anything, it wasn't my story anymore. I deleted every photo, every message, every file with her name on it. It felt surgical. Necessary. One day, I sat at a coffee shop and realized I hadn't thought about her in 2 full days. That was the turning point. Not dramatic. Just quiet. Like most healing is. No fireworks, no applause. Just a cup of coffee and a calm heart. I joined a small book club because the owner of the local bookstore insisted. I didn't talk much the first few times. But listening to strangers discuss fictional heartbreak somehow made mine feel less permanent. Stories have a way of stitching you back together without you noticing. Work got better. Clients returned. I started sketching again. Just pencil outlines of mountains, hands, cities I'd never been to. It wasn't art. It was release. My walls stayed empty, but my days slowly filled with color I hadn't noticed before. A woman smiled at me at the farmer's market once. I smiled back. That's all. But it didn't feel wrong. It didn't feel like betrayal. It felt like proof that I wasn't broken beyond repair. I wasn't trying to move on. I wasn't chasing closure. I had stopped needing it. Closure didn't come in a letter or a phone call. It came in routines, in fresh air, in conversations about books and music and nothing personal. Eventually, I told Sarah everything. The messages. The note. The decision to walk away without a word. She didn't say much. Just looked at me and said, "You did the hardest thing, left with your dignity intact." It was never about making her feel guilty. It was about not losing myself in the process. I didn't need to win. I just needed to live again, and I was. Let me know when you're ready for section 3. Of course. Here's section 3 of your story, written with clean, focused pacing and emotional resolution. The script stays direct, avoids repetition, and hits the final note of closure. Word count is approximately 760 words. It had been almost exactly a year. I stopped counting after month 8, but the calendar doesn't forget. Life had settled into something I could finally call mine. The routines weren't distractions anymore, they were anchors. I had no plans to revisit the past. But the past had other plans. I heard the knock at 9:13 a.m. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, there she was. Emily. Thinner, quieter, but still unmistakably her. She didn't say my name. Just looked at me like she was still trying to confirm I was real. I didn't ask how she found me. I just stepped aside, said nothing, and let her in. She sat down like someone rehearsing a conversation she was afraid would fall apart. There was no ring on her finger. Her hands were fidgeting the way they used to when she was nervous. The silence between us wasn't cold. It was tired. I don't expect anything, she said. I just needed to see you. I waited. I kept thinking you'd call eventually, she said. Even just to scream. But you didn't. You vanished. I nodded. Not to agree, just to show I heard her. Mark and I didn't last, she said. 3 months. He lost interest when it got real. I didn't flinch. I didn't ask for details. That part of her story didn't concern me anymore. She leaned forward. I thought I wanted something different. I thought I could have both, your stability and his attention. I was wrong. I let her speak because I knew she needed to. But I had nothing to offer her. No comfort. No validation. Just presence. You didn't even yell at me, she said, her voice breaking a little. I thought I deserved that. Maybe I still do. You do, I said quietly. But I wasn't going to give you more than you already took. She swallowed hard. You never gave me a chance to explain. There was nothing left to explain. You made choices. I responded with mine. Her eyes watered, but no tears fell. She looked around the small apartment like it held clues to the man I'd become. You seem different, she said. I am, I replied. Pain changes people. So does peace. There was a pause. A long one. Then the question I knew was coming, do you hate me? I looked at her and shook my head. I don't think about you enough to hate you. That hurt her more than any insult would have. I didn't say it to be cruel. It was just the truth. Hate is loud. I had chosen quiet. I've been in therapy, she said. Trying to figure out why I destroyed something good. I don't have answers yet. But I'm sorry. I am truly sorry. I believed her. But some apologies arrived too late to matter. I appreciate you saying that, I said. But I'm not the person you left. And you're not the person I loved. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Do you think we could ever talk again? Not now. Just, someday. Maybe, I said. But not for the reason you want. Not to rebuild. Just to respect what we had, before it broke. She stood slowly. There was nothing else to say. No dramatic ending. Just quiet acceptance. At the door, she turned and asked, what did you do, after? I lived, I said. Not perfectly. Not quickly. But fully. She smiled, just barely. I hope you keep doing that. And then she was gone. The silence returned, but it was different this time. It didn't feel like loss. It felt like closure. I sat down with a cup of coffee and opened my laptop. The day moved on. The world didn't stop because the past knocked on my door. And I didn't stop either. I didn't replay her words. I didn't question my responses. I didn't wonder what would have happened if I stayed. That man was gone. So was the version of her I once loved. Forgiveness didn't mean return. It meant release. She showed up. I listened. And I let go. Sometimes, the final act isn't reconciliation. It's recognition. Of damage done, of healing earned, of a door closed with no resentment left behind. That was the end of our story, and the continuation of mine. Let me know if you'd like the full story compiled into one piece or ready for narration formatting. Absolutely. Here's section 4 of the script, keeping the narrative tight, focused, and emotionally consistent with the previous sections. The word count is approximately 760 words, no repetition, no fluff. A few months passed after Emily showed up. She never reached out again. I think we both knew that moment was all we were owed. Nothing more needed to be said. It was over, not with drama, but with finality. By then, my life had expanded in quiet ways. I started teaching part-time at a local design college. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave me purpose. I watched students grow, struggle, and figure things out, the same way I had to, on their own terms. Their hunger reminded me that time doesn't heal everything, but it does give you the space to build something new. I began reconnecting with old friends. Not the ones tied to the marriage, those disappeared when I left. I mean real friends. People who didn't ask about Emily because they understood the value of moving forward without dragging the past behind you. Sarah visited more often. She brought me news, laughter, and silence when I needed it. She never tried to fix me. She just showed up. That mattered more than any advice. I started dating again, carefully. Nothing serious at first. Coffee, walks, good conversations. I had no expectations. I wasn't looking for someone to replace what I had. I was simply open to something real, whatever form that took. One day, I met someone named Claire. She worked at a nearby gallery. We talked about nothing at first: weather, books, bad coffee. But something about her presence was steady. Not exciting in the flashy sense, but solid. She asked questions and waited for real answers. She didn't pry into my past. She just listened when I chose to share. With her, I didn't feel the need to over-explain who I had been or what I'd gone through. She wasn't interested in dissecting my wounds. She was more focused on who I was becoming. That made a difference. We didn't rush. We spent time learning each other's silences. Some nights, we didn't talk much, and that was okay. There was no pressure to perform. No invisible comparison. Just presence. One evening, she asked if I still thought about my ex-wife. I didn't lie. Sometimes, I said. Not with anger. Just like you remember an old injury. It doesn't hurt, but you still know where the scar is. She nodded and didn't ask more. That was all I needed. I realized that trust isn't about erasing the past. It's about being honest in the present. What happened with Emily shaped me, but it didn't define me. That distinction took time to understand. I had carried the shame of her betrayal for too long, like it was my fault for not seeing it sooner. But healing isn't about blaming or forgetting. It's about releasing what no longer serves you. Some nights, I still wake up with fragments of memories, conversations we never finished, questions I never asked. But the difference now is, I don't chase answers. I let them pass through, like weather. They come, they stay for a while, then they leave. And I stay standing. I visited my old apartment once. Just drove past. A different car in the driveway, different lights in the window. Someone else's life happening inside. It didn't hurt. It didn't pull me back. It just confirmed that some places aren't meant to be returned to. I've learned that peace doesn't always feel like joy. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's boring. But there's a deep comfort in waking up without dread. In going to bed without questions. I still keep that note I left her. Not out of bitterness. Just as a reminder. Not every goodbye needs an audience. Sometimes, the most powerful choice is the one made in silence. Claire once told me, you carry yourself like someone who's been through fire but didn't let it scorch your soul. I smiled because that was exactly how I felt. Not perfect. Not whole. But alive, and real. If I ever see Emily again, I'll wish her well. I won't need to revisit anything. I won't need closure. I already got it the moment I stopped waiting for it. Love betrayed me once. But life didn't. Life gave me a second chance, not at romance, but at self-respect, clarity, and peace, and that was worth everything I lost. Let me know if you'd like the full script compiled or formatted for voiceover delivery.